inequalities. These are going to feel difficult, but if you follow all the rules, you will be fine. So here goes. The rule for solving inequalities with absolute value is you're going to first isolate the absolute value and then use the words and or and double flip to eliminate the absolute value notation. Then you're going to solve each inequality and you're going to answer in a solution set and graph if the question asks you to graph. So the first thing we're going to learn is how to deal with less than inequalities. If you get an inequality that is less than a number, the first thing you're going to do is look at the sign. If it is less than, we're going to replace it with the word and. That means we have now undone the absolute value symbol, because that's how we solve any equation or inequality. On the right side, you're going to rewrite the same inequality without absolute value. On the left side, you're going to do a double flip. That means you're going to flip the sign as well as the number itself, put the opposite of the number. In this case, it will become A is greater than -2. Similar thing happens when it's a greater than inequality. In this case, let's say A is greater than +2. Instead of the word and, if it's greater than, you're going to undo it by putting the word or. On the right side, you will rewrite the inequality without the absolute value. On the left side, you will double flip and it will become A is less than the opposite, which is -2. So keep these rules in mind and let's do some examples. So solve an absolute value inequality with a less than sign. Now this is the easier type of inequality to solve. Less than inequalities are and inequalities. So we're going to follow the rules. We are going to first undo using and I want you to put a little line in the middle so that you can separate the two sides of the work. On the right side, you will rewrite. On the left side, you will double flip. And this one is easy because it's already, the x is already isolated for you. So the easier way is to simply write it between the negative and the positive number that is on the right side. So the easier way is to just say that x is between -2 and +2. Remember that this is an and inequality. If you ever need to, you should be able to separate it with the first two and the last two. And then you put this in a solution set, and if you're required to graph, the graph should look like a line segment. By now you should be pretty familiar with how to graph these type of inequalities. Here's another one for you to try. So here the absolute value is already isolated for you. So we're going to just put it between -24 and +24. Remember that the goal is to isolate the variable in the middle. So we're going to divide each part of the inequality by 8. Turns out that n lies between -3 and +3, which you should be able to graph and write a solution set as shown over here. But sometimes there is no solution for some inequalities, and you have to be careful when you're doing this and pay attention to what it is that you're looking at. So remember that absolute value cannot be negative. So if you get an inequality like so, we're going to isolate the absolute value. Again, you can use a highlighter to isolate the to identify the absolute value. That means we're going to add 5 to both sides, making it the absolute value of 2x is less than -5. But remember that the absolute value of any number cannot be less than -5. It just cannot be negative. Therefore, this one has no solution. Similarly, if we have an absolute value that looks like so, you're going to take your highlighter and identify the absolute value, and then you're going to isolate it, we're going to divide both sides by -3. The sign will change, and now it says that the absolute value of 2x plus 1 has to be less than -6. But since absolute value cannot be negative, this one has no solution either. The last part of this video is to learn how to write the inequality if you're given the graph and the solution. So, line segments are less than inequalities, and the formula we're going to use is absolute value of x minus the midpoint is less than the distance of the endpoints from the midpoint. So here's an example. Here we have a line segment, so you know right away that it's going to be a less than absolute value, and the midpoint in this case is 0. For those of you who don't know how to find the midpoint, you take the two numbers, add them, and divide by 2. So the midpoint in this case is 0. So you're going to say x minus 0 is less than 6. Simplify the 0, and you get that answer. In the next one, you're given a line segment between -8 and +4. You find the midpoint by adding the two numbers and averaging it out. And you know this is less than because it's a line segment. And you're going to do x minus the midpoint, which is -2, is less than or equal to 6, because -2 is 6 units from either side. And then you're going to simplify the parentheses, and that's your answer. The last one, the two numbers that the inequality is between is -16 and -2. You're going to find the midpoint by adding and dividing by 2, and your answer turns out to be -9. So it's x minus -9 is less than or equal to 7. Now, solving absolute value inequalities with greater than, it's similar, but the only difference is you're going to use the word or. So our first inequality says x is greater than or equal to 2. Again, we're going to do the same process. We're going to undo the greater than by using the word or. We're going to rewrite on the right side. On the left side, we're going to double flip. You're going to flip the sign of the inequality as well as the sign of the number. And so this tells us that x is going to be less than -2 or more than +2, and that is your graph and the matching solution set. Here again, we're going to make sure you have isolated the absolute value. Again, greater than means or. Please put a line in between. On the right side, you rewrite the inequality. On the left side, you double flip. You switch the sign of the inequality as well as the number itself. And turns out that n is either less than -3 or more than +3. And this is your solution set. So I want you to try these. You may want to pause the video and see if you're getting them right. I'm going to reveal the answers now. And here we go. Make sure you know how to do every little part, the graphing as well as the solution set. And then the last part is how to write the inequality if you have a graph given to you. Opposite rays going in the opposite direction, are greater than inequalities. And the formula remains the same, except because these are going in the opposite direction, you're going to make it greater than. So here again, the midpoint is 0, and simplify the 0. Here again, the midpoint is -2. So by now you should have a good idea of opposite means greater than, line segment means less than, and so on. And that is it. I'll see you in class. Goodbye.